Welcome to Global Education's virtual Expo, and welcome to another webinar. This time we're introducing one of our largest institutions in the UK, and this is Through the Pathways with Manchester, University of Manchester. And we've got an interesting webinar here for you where you'll learn a little bit more about the different pathways, the foundation, the programs. You'll learn a little bit more from David, who's the international recruiter from the university. Let's give it a couple of minutes for people to sort of sign in. I think we've got 85 people that have signed into this webinar, and we do know that there'll be sort of less numbers signing in, so please just hold tight and we'll have that conversation shortly. In the meantime, for those who are on the webinar, please put any questions through the Q&A or the chat box. I will put my contact details on there as well, so feel free to reach out to me directly. David's contact details will also be shared as well. And as always, you'll get an email from us with the webinar details. And as you know, per every instruction that I give out in these webinars, the YouTube channel with all these videos will be released soon as well. So on that road, we'll just give it a couple minutes and then I'll hand over to David. David, I think you can actually start.
Yeah,
we've got seven people signed on, and I think just as people join in, we'll fill them in and keep them going. And
we'll get started, and I'm sure people will be able to catch up. Or as you mentioned, it's all on demand, so if anyone misses a bit they want to see, they can catch up. So thanks for inviting me. My name's David. I'm the International Recruitment Manager here at Manchester. I thought we'd start today by learning a little bit about Manchester itself as a destination, because Manchester is such an interesting place, really cool place. You'll see here it's known as the gateway to the north, also the northern powerhouse. It's the biggest, most important city in the north of the UK, really dynamic, really interesting, and a very young city. We have over 100,000 university-age students. So it's a very student-focused city and a really kind of diverse, multilingual, young, vibrant kind of a place. It's been voted the top UK city to live in for multiple years in a row. So a really kind of, interesting place to live. The cost of living is not too high, but it's still really interesting and dynamic. It's a city with a lot of history. You'll see there, we've got the John Rylands Library in the background, a really Gothic cathedral. Manchester first started in the textiles industry, so we've got lots of classic architecture, but we're also a really young, modern, energetic city. That's a picture of the Manchester Day Parade from 2019, hopefully coming back in 2021, all things lucky. And you'll see it's like this. Manchester's kind of a really dynamic, unique, interesting place to be. It's a city full of innovation and change. So first British aeroplane designed and flown in Manchester, birthplace of modern vegetarianism, the women's rights movement, where women campaigned for equal rights to men, that started here in Manchester as well. So a city that's not afraid to think differently, a city that's not afraid of change, a city full of ideas. This is what you'll get with Manchester. Science and engineering has been big as well. So we've got lots of information on screen here, various things. Atomic theory is a big one for Manchester's science history. Early computing, Alan Turing built the first computer as well, and he was very Manchester focused. We also have lots of culture, art, music, art galleries, international expos, comedy nights. Really, Manchester's well known for its kind of its industry, its soul, its vibrancy, its music. You'll be able to experience all that here in Manchester. And of course, you can't think Manchester without thinking about sports. Obviously, we're really well known for football. Manchester City, Manchester United, some of the top teams in the world based here in Manchester. But outside of football, we're actually really good for multiple other factors. Big velodrome for cycling, basketball, baseball, swimming. Interesting fact is, if Manchester was a country, we would have come 4th place in the Olympic medals table in 2016. That's because we've got lots of professional sports people that are moving to live in Manchester. And it's a city that's great for shopping as well. So we've got here all the kind of classic shops you'd expect to buy. We've got big heavy chains, and we've got small interesting boutiques as well. So here are some of the really big companies that have headquarters based in Manchester. So media is really big. We've got an area called Media City now, which is where they do all the filming for the BBC, ITV, lots of other big well-known companies based here. Lots of companies are moving to Manchester now because the cost of living is cheaper. We've got a young, talented workforce that attract employers. And we've got really good rail links, really good air links. So lots of people coming to Manchester to run their business. I thought now we'd have a little short watch of a video clip about Manchester from the people of Manchester.
Manchester means everything to me. I live here, I work here, it means everything. Pride.
A great city.
Yeah, I'm extremely proud to live in Manchester. I feel like it's the city of opportunity at the minute.
It's just buzzing. Manchester's just buzzing. Every day there's always something new, you know, a new shop or a new building going up or something. It's just fresh.
The people in Manchester are really outgoing and very, very welcoming. So I'm from Canada and came in here and I had friends in like a week.
I describe the people of Manchester as extremely friendly and fun. And again, it feels like everybody's on the same wavelength and just looking for a good time. I think what makes Manchester special is there's a real buzz about the area. You can tell there's a lot of innovation in the area.
It's just so different. It's colourful in every way imaginable.
People in Manchester are honest people, real people, not plasticky people.
So when I came to the UK, I came to the UK last year, so I found everyone was lovely. So it makes everyone feel comfortable.
My favourite thing to do in Manchester is look for new restaurants to go and find and eat.
My favourite thing to do in Manchester is going out at the weekend. It's amazing.
Describe Manchester in one word.
In one word?
What, in one word?
It's just perfect.
Home. Home.
My hometown.
There we go. A little bit about Manchester from the people of Manchester. No matter where you're from, you'll be able to find your home here. So let's tell you a little bit about Into Manchester itself. So we're an Into centre. We're based here and we predominantly specialise in pathways for students. So that would consist of foundation degrees for those of you from countries that need a foundation degree before you can access a bachelor's degree. We have international year one programmes. We have general English programs and we have pre-masters programs. So I'll go on to explain those to you in a bit more detail, but that's generally what we teach, and we're based here on this little centre. You'll see this big black circle. This is the downtown kind of core of the city centre. One of the great things about Manchester is it's kind of all based around the single heart of the city. And this is really the heart here. So we've got areas like the Northern Quarter, which are your kind of alternative, hipstery, kind of, you know, Instagrammy, young people, fresh, vibrant, different things. We've got the retail district here for all your general shopping needs. Spinningfields, an area of redevelopment, growth, new, you know, big headquarters of companies. Deansgate here, well known for its nightlife, its comedy, its music, its alternative scene. And then just to the south of us down here, this is where we get into university land. So Manchester Metropolitan and the University of Manchester. A couple of partners we work really closely with that I'll talk to you about a bit more as well. And we're right here in the heart of it. So a really good location in one of the best cities of the world. We've got some accommodation options nearby, again, right in the heart of the city. So this is our study centre. We have about 50 different classrooms where we're teaching students. As I said, right in the heart of the city, accommodation nearby. We've got all the kind of library, computer suites, that kind of stuff that you'd need. And we teach what we call an NC UK curriculum. So NC UK is the Northern Consortium, and that's the group of universities that you can see on the screen here. So for all of our programs, you can start with us and complete 1 year. And if you're a foundation, go into year one. If you're doing an international year one, go into year two at a university. And you can access any of these universities, including many of them which are Russell Group universities, which is kind of like the Ivy League, high standard, very best universities the UK has to offer. Because of our location and our connections, we have two specialist pathways with the University of Manchester and Manchester Metropolitan. So we have our general red pathway, which will access any of those universities we just looked at. And then specialist pathways for those particular universities based in Manchester, where students get some additional benefits. So let's take a couple of look at those. Our purple pathway, where students are interested in the University of Manchester as a destination. So about the university, this tends to attract students that are looking for a really high quality academic experience. The University of Manchester's ranking is very high. There are about 18,000 universities in the world. The University of Manchester is ranked number 27. So as you can imagine, extremely high quality of education, sixth best in the UK, top 200 for every course they offer. Across the board, everything is exceptional. So really high ranking, high performing students. Let's have a little quick watch of this video that tells you a little bit about the Manchester experience.
Now is the turning point of your life. Trepidation lingers as the familiar disappears, but embrace it. Revel in the tangled anxiety of the unknown. Great things await those that go in search. Manchester, this great city of trailblazing innovation, where revolutions find their heart and culture finds its soul, will subvert your expectations in the years approaching. These are the years where you'll discover who you are, the years where you'll start tackling society's biggest challenges and begin to make a difference to the world and the people around us. And if there's one thing we can guarantee, you too will change. You will grow. You're coming to a place that enables, empowers, inspires. A place that helps you realize the dreams that are sown here. Where your journey will intertwine and align with the paths of others, where the friendships you'll forge will last a lifetime. Here is a place where you'll grow to stand shoulder to shoulder with giants, side by side with friends. Break conventions, discover new ways of being curious, carve your own path. Pioneer your way of doing things because your way is the Manchester way. Whether you're coming from near or far, welcome to the University of Manchester.
So that's very much what Manchester's like. It's that high premium, high quality, really kind of life-changing experience for a lot of students, where they grow in terms of their mindset, their understanding of the world, and really kind of become young modern people that understand the world in a global context. So that's kind of very much the Manchester experience, that high-ranking, high-quality university, 27th best in the world. Over 40,000 students, so a really big university, over 177 different countries. I think there's something about 25% of the students being international students. So a very dynamic, very diverse, very interesting university with people from all over the world. Number one in the UK for social and environmental impact. So really changing the world, inspiring young people to think differently, to challenge common expectations. And we'll look at a few different schools now. So this is Alliance Manchester Business School, recently part of a refurbishment. So this was completed in 2018, part of an £85 million redevelopment. The university has what we call a 10-year plan to spend £1 billion to improve the university over a 10-year period. And this was one of the things that got changed. So you'll see brand new business school. This is the road just down here at the side. And I often walk along this road and you can see all the students kind of sitting in these chairs, looking out to the street, reading a coffee, reading their books, kind of developing. It's a really cool environment. It has the prestigious triple crown of accreditations. So AMBA, AACSB, and EQS ones. Less than 100 business schools worldwide have all three. So it's really a high mark of quality for a good business school. This is the Science and Engineering campus. So again, this is a campus that's seen development as part of that 10-year plan. The new MECD building. So again, cutting edge facilities inside, a wide array of courses that they're teaching, cutting edge facilities, cutting edge lecturers. And this is that £1 billion investment I was talking about. So the Graphene Institute, the business school, As we come to the end of that 10-year plan now, you can imagine every facility is outstanding. So it's a really great place to be studying and a really good time to be studying. Over 25 different Nobel Prize winners. So again, high mark of quality there, and really good for employability. It's the #1 most targeted university by the top 100 graduate employers. So a really good way to get a jump start on your employment. The university has a program called Stellify, which means to become a star, and it's about teaching you those extra skills that help with the employability. So understanding the world in a global context, leadership activities, stepping up to make a difference. And for this reason, I think we see a lot of students from Manchester go on to achieve really good things. There are currently 8 alumni who are in world leadership positions. So president, deputy president, prime minister or deputy prime minister, 8 current world leaders who are alumni. So you could be sharing classrooms with people that go on to rule countries one day. What do we offer on our pathways for this? So for this, we have foundation pathways. So for those of you who have completed 12 years of education and need the extra 1 year of education before you can enter into a bachelor's degree directly, this is good for you. We have these in a number of different areas: engineering and science, humanities and social science, psychology, pharmacy, and bioscience. This will get you into practically any course at the university, apart from medicine or dentistry. But for everything else, we have a pathway for it. The great thing about these pathways is we have a guaranteed conditional offer. The university is incredibly competitive. They will often have 10 applicants for each position they have available, and that obviously needs to be trimmed down. For our students, you get a guaranteed conditional offer. So as long as you meet the grade requirements, you're guaranteed a pathway into one of the best universities in the world. So a really good option for students that don't meet direct entry, or for those of you who are taking the IB but don't get the IB grades for direct entry, we can still accept students with a slightly lesser score who can then continue their journey to go on to study at the University of Manchester. So there we go, yeah, guaranteed conditional offer, access to some of the labs, some of the materials, guest lectures, linked tutors. It's a really strong way to go on to study at the University of Manchester. Fantastic, right. Next, we'll move on and talk about our blue pathway, which is our Manchester Metropolitan pathway. So this is again based in Manchester, but a different type of university. It's still a big university, 40,000 students, 3,000 of which are international, lots of things going on, 5 different faculties, 40 different subject areas, a really popular university. One way it's different, however, is it very much focuses on developing practical skills in students. So whereas at the University of Manchester, you'll maybe be assessed by writing an essay, you'll learn by listening and writing something, Manchester Metropolitan is all about learning by doing, interacting with people, gaining experience by doing things. So we'll watch a quick introduction from Manchester Metropolitan here. And as we watch this video, I want you to look out for how many students are learning by doing, how interactive it is.
When you dream of the future, what do you see? A place where you can be challenged and inspired, where you are empowered and enriched, where there is purpose, partnership and opportunity, where you can make an impact. A place at the heart of a great global city, where industry meets innovation, where knowledge meets invention, where determination meets creativity. Is this place alive with energy and ambition? Does it strive to always raise the bar and push the boundaries of what is possible? Are you ready to be a part of it? To have your contribution help shape that future? The future of our community, of your environment, of your world. This dream, it doesn't have to be a dream. Together, we make it reality.
There we go. Manchester Metropolitan, a really good example of a young, modern, practical university that's all about employment for students. So let's have a look at the few different faculty here. You'll see them up on the screen here. You'll see that, again, it's a large, modern university, 40,000 different students. So lots of different faculties and areas you can go on to study. Particularly popular at the university tend to be business and law, arts and humanities, and science and engineering. Some of the most popular courses we've got up on screen now. Again, not limited to this. This is just a little snapshot, but really a wide different range of degrees and different options you can progress to. We'll take a quick look at the business school because it's really popular with 8,000 students, one of the largest business schools in the UK. Again, that really practical learning environment and really future looking. So the university at the moment is doing a lot of work in fintech, which is financial technologies, a big area of growth that their employers are telling us that's what they want students with skills in, and the business and law as well. So law is really popular. It's an ACCA Platinum Centre. So if you're interested in becoming an accountant, you get the maximum possible number of exemptions. Let's take a real quick 30-second view of a look around the campus. There we go. So a beautiful campus, really good learning environment. Again, here are some of the top courses that you'll see, but a wide range of different courses for any kind of business or law interested students. Manchester School of Art, another popular school for us. Again, home to nearly 4,000 students, really popular for students to develop practical skills. Lots of different courses here. So architecture, art, filmmaking, fashion, all that kind of content. Let's take a quick look around. There we go. It's a really popular course. Languages, social sciences as well. Again, lots of popular areas in this school. Really well known for its English and creative writing, really highly ranked. Danny Boyle, the famous director, is going to be working with the faculty to go on to play a leading role in the kind of the change and development of the school as we look at film, animation, game design, lots going on here as well. Awesome. Engineering, we've got a little quick look at here. So again, all the kind of stuff you'd expect to see in engineering. The university's got a really popular automotive section of the course that they run. The university's won multiple prizes in terms of kind of racing and car development and stuff like that. There's 3D printing, all the kind of stuff you'd expect to see. There's the car, and again, really practical, really hands-on experience. Here are some of the different courses we've got options available for. Let's skip that video. Last one is the health option. So we see a lot of students interested in nursing courses. This is particularly strong at this university, really good hands-on stuff for physiotherapy, health, nursing. Nursing is a popular course because there are options to stay in the UK after you graduate for an extended period of time because of Tier 2 visa sponsorship. The UK NHS is often interested in hiring nurses, so there are routes to permanent residency there as well. So there we go, a really dynamic university, really well popular in a lot of different areas, really young, dynamic, and it's giving students the practical skills that they need. You'll see there's a big employment focus here. So students gaining employability skills to go on for their careers in the future. Lots of accreditation. So as I mentioned earlier, if you're interested in becoming an accountant, really good. Again, they've got that Triple Crown accreditation. And lots of industry links. So placement years are really popular at Manchester Metropolitan, and there are lots of different placement years you can take to go on to work some really interesting companies and get some really good experience. One second, I'll skip this one. So what do we have here? We have a few different programs for students. Oh, has that gone blank? 1 second. Sorry, I was just trying to skip this. 1 second, sorry. A few different programs that we have for students here. So we have science and engineering pathways, business and humanities pathways, and art and design pathways. This can again get you onto practically any course at the university. We also have an international year 1 program. So for students that would like to take an international year 1, you can study with us for 1 year and then afterwards progress on to the university in a lot of different classes at the business school. So accounting and finance or business and management, we have international year 1 options for those students. Cool. Last one's just a really quick one, so don't worry, we'll be done soon. The red pathway is our NC UK pathway, so that big list of universities that we saw earlier. Good thing about this, the best way to think about this is it's your backup, it's your safety net. If there's a particular university you see on the screen now that you're really interested in, fantastic, you can apply to go there. Not a problem. They recognize our qualifications. They're really keen to get students from our program. But the way a lot of students treat it is they'd really like to go to Manchester Metropolitan. They'd really like to go to the University of Manchester. But if they don't get the grades, these are some great backup options. So as long as you pass the course, we guarantee you progression to a UK university from this list. Which one would depend on your grades, but as long as you pass the course, we guarantee we'll be able to find you a placement for your bachelor's degree. So really good safety net for those students. What do we offer? Again, the same kind of science and engineering, business and humanities, and that international year 1. And that international year 1 can take you to 10 different universities in the UK. We also offer a pre-master's program. So for those of you that need a bit of a top up before you go on to your master's degree, we've got that program. And students have gone on to some really successful courses after that. Cool. All right, let's wrap up there and take some questions.
Great presentation, David. It was really interesting to sort of see the various pathways and sort of programs, the various campuses, and as Manchester having so many multi-campuses, from a student's perspective, how easy is it to get around? Is it simply a case of a tram or bus? You mentioned 15 minutes, but could you just explain a little bit more about how it gets around?
Sure, yeah. Let me head back to that slide 1 second and I'll talk you through it, because Manchester's like a really interesting city that although it's the second largest, like dynamic biggest city in the UK, it's actually kind of all based around the kind of the downtown core. So students can take a bus, students can get a tram, but realistically, if you're living at one of the accommodations we suggest, you don't really need any of that. Everything's accessible on foot. So most of our students, got a lot of slides to scroll back here through. Most of our students will live in an accommodation that is about 10 minutes walk from our campus, so they can walk there in the morning. And then from our campus to the university, it is just like a 10-minute walk again. And we're kind of very much in the heart of the city. I think we've got too many slides to go through here. Give me 1 second and I'll manually do this. Yeah.
That's all good. You can leave your slides on for everybody as well. It's I think it's great seeing it all.
Sure. Let me just that back up, Helen. Give me 1 second because I've found it now. I just want to show you that map again. Oh, I've lost it. Okay, let's go to the next question.
We've got a question that's come through from the team here. In terms of support for students, you know, a lot of questions that we get as recruiting students and helping them, advise them where to study, a lot of the questions that we get are, what's the support for them to get a job? Like not just get a job, but, you know, help them with their course, you know, if they might be struggling emotionally or, you know, with the course load. What types of support does the Into Pathways and programs offer with institutions? If you could just explain that.
Perfect. Yeah, well, that's a really good question. We know that kind of for a lot of students, they might be young people who are leaving home for the first time. This is the first time living by themselves, and they're really kind of learning who they are as adults, I think. So it's really common for students to need that extra level of support. One of the great things about taking an international year one or a foundation is you get that additional support that you might need as an international student compared to a home student. You know, you need to understand how the city works, how things work, where to find things. We've got a big welfare team that are there able to give all that kind of support. We've got an accommodation team on site that talks students through that, guides students, helps students. If they have academic issues, one of the things that I see that students really get a lot out of is the tutorials they can attend. So we tend to have, as well as your scheduled hours of classes per day, most students will attend class for 5 hours per day. We also have drop-in kind of sessions where if you haven't understood something the first time, like that's okay, but the best thing to do is to go into a drop-in, get some advice, get some guidance, don't bury your head in the sand, but get the extra support. And that's how we really keep students kind of trickling along, moving along, reviewing what they've done, getting all the help and support that they need to be able to take the next step in their journey.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, and it's something, you know, I wish I took advantage of being an international student. You know, it's something you hear about and you just think, oh, I'll get to it when I get to it. But I think focusing on that support is just life-changing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And at university, the kind of the employment support you get is really strong as well. So looking forward to the next step in your career, that's one of the things that I think students wish they'd often engaged with sooner at the university, the kind of the university career service. Both Manchester Metropolitan and University of Manchester, as you would have seen in the presentation, are very career-driven universities that want students to develop those skills they need to go on to get a great job. And really kind of going to the employment fairs, getting the kind of the additional skills that they can reach out to from the employment teams, such a valuable experience.
I've got a couple of questions from people on here and still further questions from other students. So we'll just go through them all and just have this discussion.
Yeah.
I've got one from Mangaliso here, who's asking, what are the minimum requirements with the IEB? I'm presuming the IEB, you're talking about the matric, to enter one of the universities, preferably in financial accounting.
Sure. So let me just pull it up here. So if we look at, say, the University of Manchester, for example, which tends to be one of our more popular courses, if you get at least, I think it's 36 points on your IB, you'd be able to apply for the university for year one directly. If you don't reach 36 points, but you get at least 26 points, then you'll be able to attend our foundation. And then as long as you're getting the grades you need, progress into the university from there.
Brilliant. Mangaliso, I'll also send you our email address. Please reach out to us so we can have that dedicated conversation for you. And like anybody else on this conversation, please ask your questions. It's a real asset to have David here speaking live to us all in Southern Africa. David, the next question here was from Tinashe and is asking, does the University of Manchester offer a social work undergraduate degree, and what are those requirements?
Oh, good question. I haven't seen social work before. Let me just have a quick look. I know Manchester Metropolitan have social work. University of Manchester only have it for a master's degree. So you'd have to start with a bachelor's degree and move on to it. I'm pretty sure Manchester Metropolitan do have that They tend to be, yeah, it's a different kind of, because it's not a Russell group, they tend to have a lot more of that kind of social work, kind of softer program. So maybe not at the University of Manchester, but consider Manchester Metropolitan as a good choice too.
Yeah, definitely. And also that it's an allied health, you know, you're just outside of that medical side of things and being involved in an institution that's very hands-on. And it was Manchester Metropolitan that's got that hands-on focus of studying. Could you go a little bit into why they have taken that approach? Was it their focus with employers that were reaching out for more practical work?
So I think it dates back to kind of how universities in the UK became universities and the different mindsets of universities. So a lot of our older historical, 200, 300, 400-year-old universities, these are universities that became universities to further research in the world. So they're research heavy, they're winning Nobel Prizes based on research that they're doing on changing the world. However, there's only so much space that you have for that and so much space you need for that, and only so much students who want that. Some students want to go to that kind of research changing the world place, but other students just want to get a good job. They want to finish their degree, they want to have skills their employers want, and they want to then get a good job that they couldn't have got without their degree. So it's coming from a kind of a different approach to, what are students looking for? And if you're looking for that kind of research heavy university, it's interesting for me because we work closely with two big Manchester universities, but I can usually tell within 5 minutes of talking to a student, what are you looking for should depend on which university you go to, because there really are different approaches. And some of our students are really academic and some just want to get a good job when they graduate. And for those students that are just looking for that practical hands-on skills, I really recommend Manchester Metropolitan as a good choice. If I can give you an example, I ran into a lecturer from Manchester Metropolitan and they were doing a module in which they had a local business person come in and talk about a project that they needed, a marketing project that they needed. So they gave the student the same pictures they'd given their marketing team they ended up using. And then the university students in groups over the course of the term put together, if we were running this, what would we do? How would we do it? Is it print? Is it ad? They're working on real life problems and then presenting it back to businesses, doing a presentation at the end. And that kind of real life scenario, real life working with your client to understand what do they want, how do we develop, mimics the skills that you would need to be successful in your job. So they're really just kind of teaching two different kinds of students that are looking for different things.
Yeah, and it's such a great point with so many employers asking for, basic entry requirement jobs to have work experience. And when you're a student, what is your work experience? It is your practical studying. It's what you're learning, your group work.
100%. And these days it's really common to have competency-based questions. So you'll go to an interview and they'll say something like, oh, tell me about a time in which you influenced somebody, or tell me about a time in which you had to make a difficult decision. And for our students that don't have any practical experience, that can be really challenging because they don't have enough life experience to draw on. But if you've gone to a practical university where you've learned by doing it, it just adds so much more fuel to what you as an individual have experienced and what you can bring to a company.
Yeah, no, it's I'm listening to you talk, David, and I'm like got 3 students that I'm talking with, and I hope they're listening in onto this because it's some real insights here. I've got another question here from Jane. Thank you, Jane, for your question here. If I'm looking into a degree that involves international relations in Manchester, what subjects for A-levels would I possibly need?
Oh, interesting. Good question. So I would say typically you should be looking for something humanity-based. I would say depending on what your A-level provider has access to. We understand, I think, that not every student will be able to take every course that is perfect for them. And the best thing about a university is that really they start from a kind of a ground up level. So if you can take humanities-based course, if you wanted to go into international relations, anything humanity-based is a good start. But really, people from different backgrounds are all coming into the course together. And from year 1 is where you'll learn the input onwards. So don't worry about, I need to do international relations A-level to move on to international relations. as long as you've got some kind of humanities, that's the main thing, because we're all kind of then, first year is a similar experience for all students to bring people from different backgrounds together.
Yeah. Jane, please do reach out. You can reach out to my email, which is just george@global-education.co.za, and I will reach out to everybody on this webinar as well, just to keep reiterating that. I've got another question here from Mangaliso. Thanks, Mangaliso, for your question as well. I think my brother would like this. Will there be opportunities for students to be associated with Manchester's football clubs or sports? Is there a student association or?
Sure. So I would say, number one, that kind of Manchester is a very sporting city. And if we look at kind of the sports interactions you can take across the board, we get lots of people joining who like football. The best place to start is just by playing. So we've got lots of sports societies, lots of, people that join. So lots of people will come and play football at the sports societies. Obviously, we never know these things, but if you're good enough, if you're playing at a high enough level, then maybe. We're based in Manchester, we never know of these things, but you'll find lots of sporting people to play with. And if you continue to up your level, who knows where that will take you.
I've got another question here for you from Hershika. And I think you did mention that Manchester is one of the media hubs for the BBC.
That's right, yeah.
So her question is University of Manchester a good university for media and communications?
Yeah, I would say, in my opinion, Manchester Metropolitan has a lot of stuff like that because it's more practical driven. University of Manchester tends to not have as many media courses because they're heavier on the classical science, but Manchester Metropolitan is really good for that kind of media, communication, journalism, that kind of interacting with people. I mentioned earlier on Danny Boyle. He's got a big part in the school now. For those of you that saw the 2016 Olympics in the UK, 2012 Olympics in the UK, 2012, yeah. He there was a big opening ceremony that was really elaborate, that really kind of showcased the history of Britain. He was the directive mind behind that. He's made loads of movies, and that kind of whole world of media, communication, TV, journalism, print media. The university is fantastic for anything in that creative sector. And as you mentioned earlier yourself, George, we've got Media City here. So BBC, ITV, we've got big film studios where they record stuff. A lot of our students also take part on TV programs because if they're filming quiz shows and stuff, they're often filmed here in Manchester. And I know a lot of our students have taken part in TV production by going to watch stuff being filmed or going to kind of take part in quizzes and seeing kind of that behind the scenes, maybe even meeting some people, networking, that kind of stuff. So it's a really good place for people interested in the creative arts or media.
Yeah, I think I'm going to add to that, to be involved, or not even to be involved, to just watch and see a production being done. And if you're in that space, you're studying, most of the 10 times your group classes, your group work is going to be building something. So to have that experience right there in front of you, it's a huge opportunity for your own CV. So please, Rashika, please do reach out to us for that further conversation on that. David, I've got another question for you here, and I think this one might be a little bit broad. What are the starting dates? Let's do two questions here. What are the starting dates for courses across the various partners? But as well, what are the cutoff and deadline dates for applications? As we know, the UCAS has been extended as well. So let's get into that.
Yeah, good question. So looking forward to the next kind of intakes that we've got would be for foundation students that need more English support. So if your IELTS isn't so strong, for anyone that's applicable to, we've got June starts. The most common intake we have is our September starts. So that would be for foundation degrees, international year one, direct entry to university, pre-masters. September is the next big intake now. The flip on one after that would be January starts. So there don't tend to be many January starts for direct entry, but for pathway programs, international year ones, you can still start that in January and complete it within that same academic year to progress in the next September. The cutoff dates will depend. It's a little bit tricky at the moment. We're seeing some changes with visa processing times because of the pandemic from last year. And we're seeing some at Manchester. We're actually a very popular centre that we have reached maximum capacity and had to close off stuff. University of Manchester can be the same. Some of their popular courses can reach maximum capacity and close off. Because of that, always putting an application in sooner the better is good. George here at Global Education can help you with that process, understand what you need to do, the steps to take part, and really kind of help you move it as quickly as possible to get your application in. Because what we don't want is for you to kind of move with it slowly. You get to it in June, July, and we say, sorry, no more space because we're full. So really kind of the sooner the better, just get the ball rolling, get things moving, because if we know you're interested, we're more likely to be able to tell you about any really hard deadlines.
It's definitely going to be, better to be proactive in this environment, and onto that, the word that we are constantly being thrown at us with COVID and the pandemic. How did the partners in Manchester, into Manchester, handle that? How were their students looked after? Could you go a little bit more into that support structure that had happened?
Sure, yeah. So if we go back kind of like to a year ago today, I guess, at that time, the pandemic kind of started, and I think that's quite kind of a hectic time. We had students tell us they wanted to go home and that's where they felt safe. And we had some students that wanted to stay in Manchester and continue. What we did was quickly move our teaching model to offer online classes. So if students just felt it was unsafe, if they didn't want to remain, they could move home. And if they wanted to stay, we'd stay and look after them. They still could stay in the accommodation. And I think that was really refreshing to a lot of students, that they knew they were flexible, they could continue their course. No matter what happened, we were going to be teaching them in a way they could access it and they would be able to continue their journey. They weren't going to get kind of cut off mid-year. So we had some students that went home. We had some students that stayed in Manchester. As things got worse, we taught completely online. We worked really hard to make sure that online provision was strong. And actually, we got really good feedback from students about their online experience. Some students really like they can watch it back. If you miss something the first time, you can watch the video back and see it again. Or in advance of your next lesson, you can watch it back to be like, oh, what did I do last class? Let me watch it. Oh, I remember this is what we studied. So it's a nice way to kind of review the material. Looking forward to kind of this September and this January when we've had our next intakes. Fundamentally, we know that our students like face-to-face study. And I think that's kind of clear from feedback that we've got. The main priority for us is safety first. So not put anyone at risk, keep social distance, follow government guidelines, keep everyone healthy and safe. After that, when we can do so safely, when we can do so without putting people at risk, we want to bring students back in that they can study face-to-face because we know that's what they like. But really, it's doing it in a way that's safe. What we're doing at the moment is starting to bring students back in a blended learning. So they're doing some classes face-to-face, but keeping socially distanced, so at least a meter or two away from each other. They can still learn face-to-face, but it's distance, it's safe. And then some of their classes online. So a blended approach. But as things get better, we hope to go back to fully online. My gut feeling is by September, we should start to reach a normal year. In the UK, at least, things are getting much, much better. We've vaccinated a big chunk of the population now. Lots of things are starting to reopen. The government has opened a plan to get us out of lockdown and living a normal life again. That I foresee by September, we should be back to normal. We never know with these things. But like I say, the general principle is safety first, but let's make sure students are still academically meeting their goals. They're still learning, they're still pushing forward. And I know for a lot of our students this year, they're really thankful that who wants to spend a year just sitting at home, accomplishing nothing. Like, let's just keep pushing forward, keep meeting our goals, and we'll get there.
Great. And it's great to see that support to international students, who are taking that risk to go and study abroad, leaving their families and being, alone in a pandemic as well. Mm-hmm. So, I think knowing that there's support for when these things happen should help alleviate some of those stresses and those questions.
Yeah.
I've got a question from a student of mine who's looking to explore opportunities of doing a master's in both biotech and business. She's got two problems. One problem is that we're concerned about her grades going direct entry. She is an honors student, but I think had some issues with her grades. Would a university consider that honors, or would they recommend going through the foundation program first?
So
with basic classes.
What has she studied? You say she wants to take a master's degree
in biotech and business. She wants to do a double master's
in business. That's tricky. A lot of universities, because of the nature of the content and the depth that you study at, it can be hard to take two very different sections combined together. My honest advice would be to lean into one. I think biotech is a really strong course, and I would worry about it if I was advising, you know, my friends, my family, that by trying to do a lot, you don't get as much depth in one area. So possibly taking one master's, then another master's would be the way that I would approach that. In terms of kind of her background and stuff, it would really depend. Does her bachelor's degree relate to the master's? What's her bachelor's degree in?
I haven't seen the details yet. This is all just through questions.
Yeah, I would say the other thing to consider is kind of what's the connection there. That if you've got a strong bachelor's degree, it should be kind of much more streamlined than if you've got an unrelated bachelor's degree, where it's harder to understand that student's journey.
Yeah, and what you said there, just, you know, it's I've just got a ping from one of the staff, one of our counselors who's on this webinar with us, saying, you know, such good information being provided here. You know, look at what you can do and what you want to do, rather than forcing something that's going to happen. You know, I really do appreciate what you said there, David. I've got one more question for you here. It's from an anonymous person, so I think they're a bit shy with the question. Oh, I've got two more coming through. All right, we'll just keep going.
That's fine. Yeah, I've got all the time you need.
Brilliant. So the first question is, how does the accommodation work for the various universities in Manchester, and what are the fees would be?
Sure, yeah, good question. So generally speaking, if students are over the age of 18, they don't have to take our accommodation. You're quite flexible. We've got accommodation options, but if you're over 18, you're free to do what you want. If you're under 18, you must stay in accommodation that we suggest, because we have a high degree of what we call safeguarding. So just making sure those students, we know where they are in the evening, they're safe, they're protected, etc., etc. The accommodation we suggest to students is with a company called Mill Point. It's about a 10-minute walk away from our campus. We have a few different accommodation options available to students. Your standard kind of accommodation, one person in one room, you've got your bed, you've got a desk, you've got a bathroom with a shower, and, you know, your toilet and that kind of stuff. You've got everything you need to have a safe, clean environment for you to do your studies in. And then 5 or 6 students in rooms like that will share one kitchen, where you'll have, you know, your fridge, your oven, your cooker, your microwave, and students will be self-catered there. Our accommodation, as I say, right in the heart of Manchester, and you're looking at about £180 to £200 a week for that. Really safe accommodation, really good accommodation location. If students want to, they could live further out of town and save a bit of money. What we often see students do is they'll stay in our accommodation for their first year. So they're in the heart of the city, they're making friends, they're getting to know other people in their course, they get to know where is Manchester, how to get around, how to get the bus, how mobile phone SIM cards work, all that kind of stuff. And then after their first year, they'll move to maybe 10-20 minutes out of town, that south side of Manchester where all the universities are. There's so many students in Manchester, it's really an easy accommodation to, if you've got a load of friends, find a house together, move in together, and you can, if you're here in person, go and see it in person. So the experience for most students is they stay in our suggestion, which is, as I say, around £200 a month, but for a really nice, safe, clean room. And then afterwards, they find their own thing, depending on their personal preferences.
Anonymous, I hope that answers your questions as well. You know, I agree with David 100%. Yeah, you know, it's your first year. You need to stay on campus. You need to network. You know, it's who you meet, your business partners in the future, colleagues. You know, I'm still in touch with first year people that I studied with, and they're closer to me than people I've made my whole life. So I do highly recommend staying on campus.
Yeah. I'm still friends with a lot of my university friends as well. There's university is one of those things where it's not just about learning content, but it's about developing skills as a young person, you know, making connections to people. I find a really interesting quote I saw is that you are an average of the 8 people that you're closest to. So it's a really interesting thing that getting to know those people who you think are interesting, who inspire you, who kind of you can see yourself growing alongside, such an important thing that, you know, when you're meeting people and living together, that impacts who you are in the future.
Yeah. Next question.
Yeah.
IELTS related. Is it compulsory for IEB matriculants? And I think let's go into this one a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I think it depends kind of what country you're from. And you mentioned they're an IB student. If they studied entirely in English, did you say an IB student?
No, IEB. I think it's the Independent Examination Board, the matric.
I missed that. Okay. You would probably still need to take an IELTS. It's one of those things where, because if you're coming to the UK, it's a visa requirement for us into Manchester. You're probably looking at taking UKBI IELTS still, yeah.
Yeah, but on that conversation though, Rashika, it also depends on what you've actually studied within that matric, and Global actually helps you with your visa process as well. So you can sort of identify if you need to do it, because a lot of the IELTS testing centers in South Africa are currently closed, and so there's also that to take into consideration. So hence why we're doing these webinars, to get you up-to-date information, and please do reach out. It is really important that you get all that sorted out well before you actually even apply, let alone think of visas and tickets and flights. Hope that answers your question, Harishika. Please ask another one. We're here. We're not going anywhere. I've just been pinged another message here.
Sure.
David, what's one thing you like about, let's say 2 questions, Manchester Metropolitan and University of Manchester? What are the 2 things from each one that you like, or one from each?
Great. You know, I really like both of them. And as I said earlier, I think they're just kind of really different style universities. So if we look at University of Manchester, the thing I like about the University of Manchester is it's such a kind of dynamic, kind of almost like life-changing, life-affirming kind of experience. One of the things I've seen with University of Manchester is the students are often very dynamic. They're interested in life, they're passionate, they care about the environment. A few years ago, for example, there was a big protest and kind of the students went on strike because the university was investing in a fund that invested in fossil fuels. And the university students turned out and said, you know, we don't think that's good enough. We think renewable energies are the future. We don't want you to invest in funds that are, you know, generating carbon. And the university considered it and changed their investment to work with renewable energies. That kind of mental process students go through of kind of discovering who they are, changing their lives, thinking about what's important to them, changing their kind of perception of what the world is. That's one of the kind of the big growth things that I think you get at university. And when we mentioned earlier, university is not just about learning content, it's a little bit about discovering who you are, seeing what you value, making connections, not just being a sheep that's following the crowd, but really kind of learning to find yourself and express yourself. So that kind of like dynamic side of Manchester is one of the things that I often see kind of students at University of Manchester have. And then in terms of Manchester Metropolitan, the thing I like about it there is, I guess it's that kind of, as I said a few times now, practical style of learning that I know for me, I'm not very academic at the core of it. I love working with people. I like, you know, understanding things on a kind of practical level, taking steps that kind of, you know, make things work. And that's the kind of learning style that I really value, that I kind of have used in my job. And I think that I see that reflected in the students there, that they're very kind of driven on a day-to-day basis to be improving their lives and get jobs and be interesting and do stuff. So it's 2 different kinds of universities, but both of which I think are really strong at giving students what they need depending on their profile.
You've also made the decision a lot easier in choosing where to go and study. And I do look forward to sharing your information with the students and, you know, this webinar as well. For me, the biggest takeaway was, you know, knowing that there's something out there for you and what you really want to do, not what you're expected to do. And I think students are becoming more aware that, hey, you need to find something that you're going to enjoy, something that you can sink your teeth in and really get down into it. And I thank you, David, for your time and really spending the time with us, taking time out of your day, and for everybody in South Africa as well. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. And really, the other thing I wanted to add is I'm really happy to talk further. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to email George here. He knows how to get in contact with me. We can talk further. These guys are really good at helping advise you to kind of understand your options, take the next step. So as I mentioned earlier, don't leave it to the last minute. Reach out now, see what you need to be doing to get to the next step of your journey.
Great. And David, I'm going to hold you to doing another webinar with you again in the next couple of months.
I'm looking forward to it. Excellent. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.